So what we're going to cover today, really just kind of an overview of the entire process. They certainly can vary, but you sort of set them up in a similar way. So we're going to cover kind of the initial stages where you're creating marketing materials and really getting ready to go out to potential buyers. Then we're talking about the actual buyers themselves and how you go about putting together the list, how you go about contacting them, and what the important things to know are as a junior banker. Sort of the next stage in the process, first round bids, management presentations. What that means, how it normally looks, and then second round bids and final diligence, and then we'll hit the key takeaways and do a Q&A period. So we're planning for this to take about 15 to 20 minutes to cover the material so that we can leave plenty of time for questions. And ultimately, you're going to get to the point of what you call first round bids. Now we call these indications of interest usually, an IOI. So we usually give, this can vary greatly, but usually at a minimum, you want to give somebody kind of 2 to 3 weeks once they have the materials. For a lot of reasons. Sponsors typically have kind of their weekly meetings, so you want to give them a chance to talk about it with the other people in their group. Strategic buyers sometimes can take a little longer because they have a little more bureaucracy and as far as signing NDAs. And so sometimes you'll maybe go out to them a little first or give them a little more lead time just because you know that there's going to be a little more of a process there, whereas sponsors are usually able to act quicker. So once you get the first round bids in, you'll hopefully get more than a few. And these are usually going to be much more general than the second round bids. A lot of times there'll be a range, or usually will be a range of values rather than a specific number. And even if you try to get people to do a specific number, a lot of people just won't commit at that point. They want more information. They want to be able to meet the company. And they probably at this point won't have spoken with anybody at the company at all. Sometimes those will be the values will be tied to an EBITDA multiple, with the understanding that if the numbers turn out to be something different than what they thought they were, that their bid would be adjusted accordingly. And then so you do manager presentations next, and usually there you're going to be selecting. Hopefully you had enough first round bids that you can select the best. If you don't have that many, then maybe everybody gets a management presentation. But important thing, and I'll talk about this a little more later, like it's really important from your perspective to always keep it competitive. Even if you only had one bid, you don't want to give somebody the impression that they're only competing against themselves. And so even here with management presentations, you kind of have tricks like, even if there are only a few buyers out, the senior guys might shut down the first couple potential dates just acting like they're busy. Because you don't want somebody to think that it isn't a competitive process, and so that's important to keep in mind throughout. And then hopefully sometime around the management presentations, maybe right before or right after. We usually do them after so they don't hijack. So that part of diligence doesn't hijack a management presentation, but that's where we're opening a large data room. There are a number of providers that do them. And that's what I was talking about earlier. It's a lot more thorough, has a lot more information. Might have contracts, leases, kind of articles of corporation, all the minutia, maybe some more detailed financials than you gave in the SIM that buyers are going to want to ultimately firm up their bid. Sure, yeah. I think as far as the most important thing are qualities. I think, certainly, like I said, technical questions is sort of a good way to make sure somebody's done their homework. But I think, when I was interviewing, and I guess I'd keep this in mind when I interview people now. I think for me, I was coming from a lateral, at least when I came to my more M&A role now. And so there, I think it was important to be able to talk about my experience and how that related to the role, and that sort of shows, not just all your experience, but also that what the job's going to entail. And I think this is, this for me, I was a lateral, but I think this is important too for people coming out of college because, hopefully you have some internship experience or some classroom experience. And I think it's important. I guess this is why I thought that this presentation might be helpful, is that I think it's important to understand kind of what the job actually entails, what you're going to be doing on a daily basis, and that you can relate how your experience might make you a good candidate. So for me, I think it's big that I had worked in my other job on transactions in a banking role, and had just been promoted there. Was able to show that I've been successful and able to relate my experience to the job, and also kind of like I said before, I think communication is big. I think it's in some ways maybe underappreciated because obviously you spend a lot of time memorizing technical questions and doing your research, but you can't teach somebody. You can teach somebody how to do an LBO or DCF in training. You can't teach them how to be an effective communicator. If you haven't learned that, whether it's in your schooling or in your life at that point, it's gonna be very difficult for any sort of training program to turn you into an effective communicator. So a lot of times I think in interviews, you got to have to think of it like that. And the person interviewing is going to say, can we put this, especially in a middle market firm, can we put this guy in front of clients? I think maybe raw brain power can get you further in bulge brackets because maybe, maybe the modeling component can be a little bit more heavily weighted in terms of your time spent. But I think particularly the middle market bank, we want somebody that we can put in front of clients. Sometimes maybe we won't because we'll know maybe we can't put somebody in front of a client because, but they're really smart. But I think that's a rare case, and I think it's, usually we have to have confidence. And I think part of that is because I think there's a trend towards promoting more from the analyst ranks. At my bank, we have a lot of the associates, or most of the associates, I would say, and really all the way up the ladder, guys that came in as analysts. So I think there's more of focus on the middle market banks today of looking for people that are going to be able to rise up, kind of above the analyst role, and so you're thinking kind of more down the road. When I had my PE offer signed, so actually it was in another city that I'm currently living in, and I found out that afternoon that I pretty much had it subject to references, which I knew would be fine. So I had a great time. I was visiting friends from college, actually a friend from college and a friend from home after my interview. So it was on a Friday, and I was able to make a weekend out of it. So I had a lot of fun that weekend, and going out a couple nights. It was during football season, so that was fun Sunday. So I guess that was a big part of the celebrating. When I actually accepted was I was at a wedding and a few weeks later when I finally made my decision, and ultimately it was down to the people. And so yeah, I guess the celebration was really because after that it was really just making a decision, but it was fun. And IB people spend less time at each firm. Yeah, so I think, you're right. I think people do these days, particularly at the junior level. A lot of people are looking to move after 2 years or so. I think if you leave before 2 years, it certainly can rub people the wrong way. But I think, at my firm, I would say, I guess two things. I think, one, the people that the senior guys that, especially if you stay for 2 years or longer, senior guys whose opinion you care about most, know better than, they aren't going to hold that against you. We have a top guy at our firm that used to put at a bulge bracket and running a huge group there before he was here. And he told me when I told him, or actually I think he told a friend of mine, but when he told him he was leaving for private equity, and you could tell, the analyst was kind of nervous about it, but he's like, look, I used to have these conversations. I used to have 20 analysts in my group. I was having these conversations every week. So, So I think, certainly it can rub people the wrong way if you leave too soon, but I think as long as you have been there kind of to a point where you can be useful. I mean, obviously, when you come in, you're learning, you're only able to so much, but if you've been around and they've been able to add value for some time, so really it's like the 2-year mark usually. I think most people whose opinion you care about will hold that against you, because everybody's generally, the senior guys have done that at one point and they've moved firms. Everybody does it. That being said, I think there is definitely a push to get more associates from the analyst ranks, and that's where most of the associates in my office currently came from. And we've been doing much less MBA recruiting, because I think the thought is that we'd rather have somebody who's been working for 3 years, knows everybody, knows the group, and has done banking, versus somebody bringing in somebody new from business school. So yeah, I think people certainly leave, and I think usually it's sort of expected that a certain amount of people are going to leave, but there is definitely an effort, I think, in a lot of firms to promote more people from within. So you sort of have the chance to do either.